morning, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day outside. And if you haven't gone outside yet, I hope you will go outside because I know I'll enjoy it today. And today we're going to be talking about Clap When You Land. This was our book technically for April, which was National Poetry Month. And however, with scheduling and spring break and things, we gave you an extra week to read it because it is kind of thick. And so with the book we're talking about it today, there will not be a book for May just because I know exams are coming up for everyone, and I don't want you guys to worry about a book. I do have some book recommendations though if you want to read something for this month. And since it was National Poetry Month, we decided between several different novels that wrote in free verse. So like I said, it is kind of thick, but most of the passages are just lines of poetry. They're not very long, and that was something I really enjoyed about this book. I enjoyed this book a lot for several different reasons. It's because I personally enjoy poetry, and this isn't the type of poetry you have to sit there and think about and kind of decipher. It's not Shakespearean and it's not too simple. Well, this book perfectly knew how to say things and describe things. It was never too much, it was never too little. Well, it was perfect wording almost all the time. And there's something really enjoyable about this book, something this author did very well. And if you don't remember her, I know it's been a month and a week ago, but this book was about a father who has two families, one in the Americas and then one in the Dominican Republic. And they don't know that. The daughters that you see here on the front page don't know that until he unfortunately passes away going to visit one of the other families. And this whole future and all of these secrets and everything unfold about the secret life this man had and the duality of him and just the cultures he had behind. And so our main character is Yaria, and that is Camino on this side. They figure this out as their father unfortunately passes away in a plane crash, and it's about how they feel about themselves, their father, learning that they have a sister who across the ocean technically because it is in a different country, and they just have to deal with it with each other, within themselves, within their current family, what they have left that's other than their dad. And because their one connection, their dad, is now gone, and now they have to figure out about themselves. And so along with that, it was really emotional. And if you're a crybaby like me, you might tear up some, but it was never a bad tear up. You felt for these characters, you wanted to give them a hug through the pages, and it was just something not a lot of people could relate to. I know we had a lot of books that people can relate to recently, but this just gives a whole different experience of what it's like to figure out a whole family secret you didn't know for the first 17 years of your life. And this book has won several awards. It did get the 2020 Goodreads Award, or the 2019 Carnegie Masters Award. Excuse me, I have a sticky note on the back, so I'm looking at it. The 2019 Carnegie Medal and the Waterstones Book Prize, and I feel like it deserved all of those just because it's like I said, it was always perfect wording, and it was never too thoughtful poetry. I know sometimes it can be daunting trying to figure out what poetry means and what the author's feeling, but you can feel every emotion these girls had talking between each other. And not every chapter, it kind of breaks differently, but every section is one girl's point of view. So it would first go from Camino's to Yaria's and then back and forth, and you never got really confused. You knew who was talking at all times. I know it's something some books have troubles with when they try to bounce back from 3 to 4 characters, but between the two of them, you knew what was happening at all times, and you just felt for all of them. And so I really recommend this book. Look, I didn't want to put it down. I don't want to put it back on the shelves. This might be something I add to my personal collection, but I'm going to put it back on the shelf for you guys, so you guys can read it.
Thanks, Sam.
And like I said, I do have some book recommendations. We're not going to be doing a book talk for the month of May. because it would give us a shorter schedule, and you guys have exams and stuff to worry about anyways. But May is Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, so I have several books by Asian authors. We didn't have any by Pacific Islanders on our shelves today. They're all checked out, but the one that is most popular at the moment is called, I have another sticky note, Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Roubaix. And it's about another book about discovering themselves, but that's more religiously with patrons and figuring out what something is good for that person, the main character. You probably have heard of this To All the Boys I Loved Before. There was a movie about it, and there's 3 books in this series about all the boys she loved before. She writes letters, and I believe they get sent out somehow, and the boys all found out how she had a crush on them. And it's a cute little love story. I promise it does have a good ending, though. Oh, and there are more books other than just this one. If you love this book, you can read the second and then the third. Parachutes, I'm not entirely sure what it is about. It is one of our newer books, but it is by an Asian author, so hopefully maybe you guys can read it and tell me, so I'll learn something. And this one is one of our graphic novels. It is Dragon Hoops. I believe this is about Asian American trying to get through a basketball team and discovering his both American and Asian side, which I know a lot of American Asian authors write about, so it's interesting to learn that point of view for someone who is not Asian American. And I do have a 4th book, just in case you like the idea of poetry novels where they tell the story through free verse. It was one of the recommendations from last month. It is A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. If you know me, if you ask about my favorite authors, he is up there. Susan's probably heard me talk about him like 4 times this week alone. And he just writes very well, especially with poetry. And we do have a graphic novel version of this as well. If something like just the poetry free verse is a little daunting, I know. So they are quick reads though because of it. So if that's something you need, a quick read between your exams, I'd recommend this book, the graphic novel version or this normal novel version. And that is for our book talk today. And talking about families, quite the opposite. We are going to talk about Mother's Day. And you might have more than one mother. You might figure out that you have half siblings, and there's a bunch of different versions of blended families, and that's perfectly okay. And so, sorry, I'm not going to show. If you are a mom watching with your teens right now, go ahead and pass off the phone. I'll give you a couple seconds. If you need to click off this video, that's okay. We're not going to be mad at you this time because it's for you guys, and I don't want it to be spoiled. Unless you need to make one for your mom and your children's grandmother. Because I know grandmothers are always included in Mother's Day. I always try to get my grandmother something. Alright. Are you guys ready? Okay. So what we're going to be doing to get you some good brownie points is adding this awesome Mother's Day card. Or if I do say so myself. It was not my original idea, but something kind of extra. If you're like me, I like making some cool cards like this for my mom.
Gosh, that looks good.
And, it just adds something pizzazz as to your cards and what you can do to give to your mother. So show a little bit of love in your cards to show how much you appreciate and love your mom.
What's the front say?
And it said, if moms were like flowers, I'd still pick you.
Somebody make that for me.
And I will have some kits of the templates of this flower that I use. I have just the little versions here to kind of show you and talk about what I did. And this is the template portion of it. So I, of course, took some colored paper and I cut out each individual part. And where the lines are on here, I kind of creased them with my thumb just really quickly. I didn't fold them completely because I didn't want it to look too stiff. And eventually, when I was done with that, I connected them on their flabs. And you go around and tape them. And you do the same for all 3. And then you glue from 3, 2, 1. You go backwards that time. And glue all of these tabs together. and they all should fold in half, so you might have to play around a little bit to where they fold in half nicely on your card, so your card isn't like that thick. And in your card, you will place the biggest tab, and you glue it on one side, and when you fold it inwards, you'll have this other side with all the other tabs, and then you'll glue it, and then open it back up, close it so the glue sticks to it, wait a couple of seconds, open it back up so that way your flower stays open like this one, and it won't try to stick unevenly, and that's kind of how you got it in an even center. Or if that's a little too difficult for you, is what I did is I took the first one, or excuse me,
The pointed one?
the third one, the pointed one, and they're all numbered on the sheet, and I put it down first, and then I wrapped 2 around and then 3 around all at the same time, and then glued them together that way. And if this is a little daunting to you, I know I've used that word probably a million times today, but if it seems like too much for you, just any pop-up card will do, and I have a simple version of that for you guys, and I'll put some construction paper out there. Or any pop-up will do, and if you've never made a pop-up card in school, I know it's been a very long time since I've made one like this, is you'll take just your inside piece of paper, and you'll cut about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch into it after you folded the piece of paper, and with that tab, you'll push it inwards rather than outwards, and then you can put something there. I put a little hug to give someone.
So you don't cut it out, you just push it in the opposite way and then glue whatever your picture is on it.
And this can be anything. It could be a hug, it can be a smile, it could be
Another flower.
Another flower. If that flower's a little too much for you. It could be your mom's favorite animal. If it was for my mom, I'd put a panda and put a cute little panda pun on it. I can't think of one on top of my head. If you've got good panda puns, put it in the comments so I could use for next year. And I have another piece of paper here just because you don't want to give a card with like a hole in it, and your mom goes, "That's an interesting shaped card," and then she sees it. Or maybe your mom likes interesting shapes, so you might give it that way. But if not, you have a second piece of paper and you'll just glue the outside to it. Just make sure you work on the inside first so you don't end up gluing all your nice pop-up stuff stuck to the inside. And in that way, it's like, oh, I have a great card, and he opens it and there's a little hug inside.
Wow.
And it could be anything you want on the inside. I just thought I would also provide a little bit of an easier option. And you can have multiple tabs to make a whole garden of flowers if you really wanted to. There's a lot of great ideas that you can make about it. So here's our Mother's Day cards. And if you're looking for several books to read, we can always go back to the recommendations, or you can read Clap When You Land. I really recommend these books. And I hope you do great and enjoy today. I will see you next time.